who we've been working with now as part of the EdTech Demonstrator Schools and Colleges program, and Stacy has driven her college a long way with her passion and determination to help to embed Google and other EdTech across her college. I think Stacey's going to be talking about her trials and tribulations that she's had during that and offer some sage advice. So I'll hand over to Stacy now. I will be dipping between the other meeting that's also running at the same time. So I hope to see you all soon. Remember, there is the chat function, so if you'd like to put some things into the chat, please do so. And also on Twitter, we're using the hashtag DCEdTechFest. So if you'd like to join us on Twitter, please do. And I will see you back shortly. So I'll hand over to Stacy now. Stacy, if you'd like to present your screen or you're just going to talk, it's totally up to you. That's fine. Thank you very much.
So hopefully you should be able to see my screen now. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm from Selby College and I'm here to talk to you about the challenges and positive stories that we have around getting the whole college approach to Google. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, that would be really good too, and we can connect and collaborate and share. So first of all, I've just got a little image that a lot of you might be really familiar with. So these are sort of some of the challenges that we all face as people in colleges trying to drive forward sort of technology. So here we've got a picture of, us trying to say, hey, this is really good. And generally we get people saying, no, thanks, we're too busy. And this was one of the things that I initially faced when we started the Google trial and when we started to try and push Google out. We got a lot of resistance, not because people don't genuinely want to do the right things, but just when you're facing the moment with all this work and all your students around you, that sometimes it can feel like the last thing on your mind. So I'm going to talk to you about our journey of kind of overcoming that and allowing people to put the wheels on the car to make their journey smoother. So what we wanted to do at Selby was we wanted to move from an old-fashioned VLE to a more modern digital learning platform. Now this started before COVID, but obviously COVID has really advanced a lot of the things that we're doing. So our aim was to develop a consistent approach to technology-enhanced learning with the purpose to improve the quality of classroom practices, increase student collaboration, promote independent learning, and respond and prepare further to hopefully respond to the COVID-19 situation. So that was our plan. That was what we wanted to do. And this is where we started. So we started with Moodle, and I've been at the college now for 3 years, but historically they've been using Moodle for around 10 years. And when I first came to the college, my colleague had done a fantastic job of making Moodle look and feel as good as possible, but it has its limitations. There's no collaborative features. Staff just used it as a repository. Students didn't really go onto it. So we really needed to change and do something different. So in September 2018, we started the pilot of using Google. We got support from our network services manager, but he advised us to dip a toe rather than jump in with both feet. Now that seemed like really sound advice at the time, but I completely wish that we'd ignored that and just jumped in with both feet. And we might have been in a stronger situation with the COVID responses to this day. Then in July 2019, we did widen that trial with some training in the July 2019, and we monitored that through the teaching and learning group. And Google began to slowly, but too slowly, embed into a number of curriculums. We had pockets of it, but we didn't have a whole department or whole curriculum manager area approach. Then we had the COVID-19 speed bump, and this we were sort of prepared, but not as prepared as we'd like to have been, because we had some staff using Moodle still, some using Google really well, and then we had some teams that just jumped to using Microsoft Teams, which is a very similar product to what Google offered, but they wasn't involved in our trial and testing, and they just moved, they just jumped, and we couldn't stop them because they needed to react quickly. So they realised that Moodle just didn't offer any collaboration, so they jumped to that system quickly. But the teams that was already using Google, they stayed with their choice. Some teams had taken to using Microsoft really well and effectively with their students, but it led to a real problem. We had too many teams using too many systems. It was hard for us to monitor, hard for the students, and just causing confusion. And my colleague who supports me with all the EdTech support was just run ragged, helping people with Moodle, helping people with Teams, helping people with Google, and then all the wider things like Kahoots and GimKits that kind of wrap around your system. She was absolutely frazzled. So we needed a real solution, and we needed one quite quickly. So decisions. It's not an easy decision, but what we've learned is that the decision has to come from the institution. No one else can make that decision for you. I've heard on other conferences people say, well, what's the best one to use? And I've asked that question myself to Wayne and other people, and it has to come from you, what you want. So me, my colleagues, we wrote a report outlining the 3 systems, and we presented it to SLT. And the main things that impacted on our decision was the following. Our local secondary and feeder schools was already using G Suite. So we figured that this would limit the learning curve for students if they're already familiar with a product when they come to our college. It's one less thing to learn, meaning they can really concentrate on their studies and their curriculum. The platform is routinely used in primary schools, and it's quite simple, so we thought it would be beneficial for some of our SEND provision. Our TLA leaders, which is myself and my colleague Sarah, along with the network services team, we were better prepared to support Google because we'd done the trial and test. And Google wasn't just about COVID, it was a quality fix for us. We needed to streamline, focus, and tap into some of these modern digital learning platforms to make our college and our student experience much better. So this is our vision and plan. We had a 4-step plan over 12 months, and this started in July. So we was going to go through the survive stage, which I'll show you when I flick onto another screen how that looked. We was then going to go into the strive stage, which is September to February. Then the thrive stage, which is February to July. And then we had the arrive stage, which is July onwards. So I'm just going to play a short video. If there's no sound, someone speak up and I'll flick it onto YouTube because I've put a copy on YouTube as well. And this is how we sort of sold the plan to staff. This is what we said where we was going to go. So I'll just play. If it doesn't play, let me know. Learning, we would expect to see elements of the Selby way to be picture, exposition.
Hi, Stacy. We can't hear anything.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I'll just flip over to YouTube, which should play it better. Okay, that should play it better. Let me know if it doesn't.
This video will explore the plan for teaching, learning and assessment from September to 2020. There's likely to be a mixed participation, both on-campus learning, over video conferencing or wholly remote. We are preparing for those. In order to do this, the college has made the decision to use G Suite products for all teaching and learning from September 2020. How we use those products will be based in two different ways, both synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous learning will make up 1/3 of the learning experience. This is the equivalent to 1 day in college or 3 to 4 hours by video conferencing.
It's really echoey. Have you got it open twice? Have you got it open on 2 devices?
No, I haven't. No.
We can't hear it. It's a double echo all the time.
Okay, no problem. I'll just switch back. Not to worry, because I kind of talked through it a little bit on the other slides, but that was just the video that we presented to staff. You'll have been able to see some of the graphics and some of the text that was on there to kind of see where we was going with our strategy. Oops, just let me stop that. So we moved on to training. We wanted to make sure that all our teams were really well trained, and my colleague set up all the training to be within the training room, which is a Google Classroom, and we wanted to make sure that the training was what we needed, because quite often we can get blindsided and distracted by things that are offered with the ETF or things that are offered through the AOC, but we really needed to scope it and make sure it was fit for purpose for what our staff needed. So I'm just going to take you to the training room and show you the like. One second. So the training room was set up by my colleague, and we put announcements in the stream here and an introduction video of how to navigate the training. Then we set all the training up in classwork. So we have all the activities, we have the plan at the top, then we have, oops, sorry, I'm still, one second, let me go back. So then we have all of the activities that we want staff to complete down this side, covering all the topics that we need them to, and covering our 4-stage plan in terms of our Survive stage, which is July to September, Strive, Thrive and Arrive. So we've got a real comprehensive amount of training in our training room, and you'll be able to see the vast amounts of staff as students that we've got attached to that training room. We delivered it in 3 parts. We allowed people to choose their own way, so they could deliver it completely through the training room, or they could have a face-to-face session if they wished, because we felt it was really important for staff to sort of self-differentiate and decide what training they needed to do, whether they was going to do that face-to-face with us in the college, online, remotely through the training room. And then we had an even more advanced stage, which was about being a support in the training room, sort of answering questions that people were asking. So after we'd done the training, we made it really clear the expectation of our wider digital strategy. And hopefully the PowerPoint's sharing with you guys now. I'm just gonna check. There we go. So we wanted to make sure the wider digital strategy was really clear. So we made sure that the online digital platform was G Suite products. For our tracking and reviewing an e-portfolio of apprenticeships, we made it clear that it was one file. For tutorials, ILP, progression, it was eTracker. all the repository documents that you want for your learning go into Drive and Classroom. We still used MS Teams for staff communication because of the amount of support teams that we have that are not teachers, and we found it easier to use Teams with the support teams. And then for external events such as open evenings, the college has decided to use Zoom. So how this looks in terms of our wider digital strategy, we split it into two elements, which this won't be any surprise to anyone, but we have asynchronous and synchronous delivery. We want the synchronous delivery to make up 2/3 of the educational experience, sorry, 1/3 of the educational experience, which we chose to deliver over Google Meets. And then the asynchronous section, we chose to deliver through Google Classroom, and we want that to make up 2/3 of the educational experience. Now, we've been really lucky at Selby because we've been able to deliver around 90% of the education that we intended to actually on site. But what we've chose to do is really deeply embed the Google Classroom and the asynchronous learning to get students familiar with submitting, assigning, doing activities through Google Classroom. We have had some instances of hybrid learning where we've had half students in the class, half joining through the Google Meet link in their classrooms. So we've had some instances of that, but we've only had a couple of times where we've had to deliver fully synchronous online. But obviously with the rising cases, we're preparing to do that more at this present moment. So where pedagogy meets tech. So it's really important, after spending some time listening to the Ofsted speak at the AOC conference, that we made sure that we was covering everything we needed. So where we talk about asynchronous learning through either the classroom or through Google Meet, we want staff to make sure that they have a big picture. So they outline the expectations and objectives of the session. Then we expect a real thorough recap for the staff to grasp whether the students have learnt the content. And then they'll use this synchronous delivery to expose, teach tricky concepts, use whiteboards on their Google Meet to kind of talk through and explain elements. And then at the bottom here, we have Q&A, which we'd expect to see in a Google Meet. And then asynchronously, we want it to be more about the learning and the progress. So we have lots of active learning in our classrooms, we have lots of opportunities to check and assess the learning, and we have opportunities to summarise. And again, we still want Q&A and assessment for learning within that asynchronous classroom. Now, where we have the academic and vocational split, we actually swap them around because we want more of the vocational time in college to be spent practicing using the active learning, the checking learning and the summarising, and we want their asynchronous learning to be about watching demonstrations, so when they can come into college they can act those out straight away. So we wanted to be really clear about what elements we'd like to be delivered in each part and how that differs between academic and vocational. So the Ofsted view then. So Ofsted spoke a lot yesterday in the AOC conference about these 4 elements. So are students present? So do we have a presence, whether that be on campus or externally in like through Google Meet? Do we have participation? So although they're present, are they actively participating?
Oh yeah, just dump them on there. Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry.
And finally, is there learning and is there progress? So we split this into our 2 parts. We split presence and participation into our synchronous delivery, and we put the learning and the progress into the asynchronous delivery. So we've got a real mix, balance and coverage that we're covering the things that Ofsted are looking us for. And we ran our quality of education review last week, which covered a lot of the use of Google Classrooms to make sure that we really did have this covered and this met. So I want to show you some of the positive things that we've been doing asynchronously. So you'll see here, this on the left-hand side, this is one of our practical sport modules. And you'll see that the students have been assigned 2 asynchronous learning activities, which one's a Kahoot and one's a GimKit. So this is due Friday and Monday. We've already had 2 students turn it in and they've commented, and I just love this one at the bottom. This student, I got 8,381 on my first attempt. So it shows that they're really engaging with these activities. So they're learning synchronously through the classroom and also through Google Meets if they're attending that way. And then they're able to apply that asynchronously in the lesson, and we can track and monitor the scores and results so we can see the impact of the synchronous delivery. We really know that our students love gamification. They love to play Kahoots, Gimkits, Quizlets, quizzes, everything that they love, all that sort of stuff. So our teams have really been able to embed these asynchronously into their classrooms. So that's a really positive story for us. Next, our staff are trying to replicate activities they would do in the classroom, but remotely, asynchronously. So quite often, as we know as educators, everyone loves a post-it and a whiteboard. We like to get students to put things on post-its and arrange them on whiteboards or walls to help them consolidate their learning. This is an example of a tutor that's been using Jamboard to create exactly the same element. So you can see here, lots of post-its down here on this board, and the students have done this asynchronously. And she's also linked this to the Chili Challenge. So you can see the different coloured post-it notes. They all link to an easy question, a medium question, and a hard question. So you can really see where that pedagogy is meeting the technology and meeting the needs of the students to kind of develop their understanding and to make it exciting and engaging as well. We didn't just want to put sterile PowerPoints or sterile resources into Google. We wanted to make it really interactive, and the staff have done a really fantastic job of this. So another positive story is the use of Google Forms. So a lot of our teachers, we said asynchronously, we wanted to check the learning, we wanted to prove that progress was happening. They've really taken on board this and are using Google Forms to set assignments. You can see that 16 have turned in this Google form and 2 still need to do it. But the students are actually are living it and breathing it. And although we've got the synchronous delivery actually on site, using the asynchronous Google Classroom alongside is really benefiting their learning and really helping them to embed it and to progress through their course. Another positive story, this one's obviously difficult to read, but this is a teacher posting a midweek motivation on their class stream. So she put, "You've got this, you've made it to the end of the term, last day, knuckle down, work hard, and you can have a well-deserved rest." And there's a nice image of a proud teacher of amazing students here. Now, while this isn't necessarily about teaching and learning, you can see the students have commented. So what this is creating is rapport, relationships, building a sense of community, and this is all created through the stream. So sometimes if we're not able to be in class and we can't build those relationships, we can replicate this in the Google Classroom, using the stream, getting the students to comment, answer, and build that sense of community. So that's been really useful for that particular member of staff. And that area has had a lot of students self-isolating, so we have had to move to some more synchronous delivery with the asynchronous in the Google Classroom as well. So we also use the stream for quick sharing of important messages. So we can do that from a management level. So we have management oversight of all the curriculum accounts. So the curriculum area managers can post important messages onto their Google Classrooms for their areas. So I think what's nice is we're seeing pedagogy, we're seeing digital, we're seeing community, relationships, we're seeing it all building through this digital platform, and it's growing all the time. Next for them, we had a real problem that A-level students, they do handwritten work because their final exam is handwritten. So how could we replicate that and get them to submit that through Google Classroom without having to take photos of work, or without having to email to tutors, or without having to hand paper backwards and forwards? So we used like scanning apps for students to scan their work and upload to Google Classroom as a PDF. And you can see here, the sections are highlighted and the tutor is able to give feedback. And this is working really well for our A-level students. You can see the work that they've submitted and the feedback they've given. So when we do get Ofsted inspected, or when we do another quality of education review, we've got everything at our fingertips. It's close, it's all in one ecosystem of one classroom, and we can manage what we need to do better. So that really worked for the A-level students. Next, we've got students can submit and receive feedback on their work, both formative and summative pieces. Now, we did do stuff like this through Moodle, but it's actually much better. And we can see that we're able to comment on the text and the script, and we're able to give private comments to the students so they can really sort of develop their learning and practice. And for me, quality checking, I'm able to see this and share this with externals, with Ofsted inspectors, with our quality of education review team, so they can see firsthand the things that are going on. Because before, when we had multiple systems, we had students work in folders, we had students work in their bags, we had students work in ring-bound folders in offices, we had work on Moodle, we had some on Google. It was just a mess. But this is really helping us streamline our processes and procedures. So positive synchronous then, as I've said, we haven't had to do as much as we thought in terms of synchronous learning, and we want to deliver as much of the students' education on campus as possible. But we have had an instance where the teacher was self-isolating and she was able to use Google Meet to tap into her classroom. We had the webcam set up in the class and she was able to deliver her session normally as she would. We've also had instances where each of our rooms have the webcams and mics, and teachers are able to just switch on the Google Meet link, and if anyone's self-isolating, they're able to join via that Meet link. We've had to be really clear with the students that the Meet link is for COVID-related issues. It's not so they can have a lie-in. It's not if they miss the bus. If they miss the bus, they get the next one and they come into college. The Meet link in the Google Classroom is only for those that are self-isolating or have symptoms or have a positive test. But we only ask students if they're well enough to join. So the challenges then, we are baked in the Microsoft world at Selby, and I am too, because the irony is I'm presenting on a Microsoft PowerPoint to you today. But we're breaking those down and we're starting to use the features within Google. And I think it's okay to, in some instances, be a bit of a tech hussy and try and use different systems, but we are trying to keep it as simple as possible. As you'll know, we have a vast range of staff's digital skills. We have the experts at the top and we have those right at the bottom. And it's a challenge to meet the needs of the students. But it's important to remember that in a college, in a classroom, your staff range in quality of delivery of education as well. So moving to digital, it's the same. You know, we're still going to have those gaps, and all we can do is keep training. We have a really small team of human resource. There is myself and Sarah and some technicians that are kind of driving this forward and supporting and delivering. But sometimes we can go from making top level decisions right down to sitting next to somebody and helping them sort out the Google Classroom or helping them train to do that. And then another challenge is we've got the consistency of quality across the college. I've shown you some really good examples, but we also have other examples of areas that we really need to be developing and pushing things forward. And similarly, we have to be doing things on a budget. Like all colleges, we have our limitations, so we've had to try and make this work on a budget. Okay. So how it's helped our quality processes, because this isn't just a response to COVID, this is about making everything better. So because we have oversight of everyone's classrooms and everyone is using classrooms, we're able to access information much quicker. So all the planning that staff do in terms of schemes of work is linked to that classroom. All the students' work is in one place within that classroom, whether that's formative or summative. We can access and view the quality of resources that have been delivered. So are they things like Kahoots embedded? Are they videos? Are they Google Forms? Is they static things as well as active things? We're able to view the quality of resource. And then we're able to join the sessions via the meeting link. So we can actually have a presence in the classroom because the teachers switch on the webcams when they go in, and if anyone's joining who's self-isolating, we can join too and see what the education experience is like. Now, we did our first quality of education review and we asked the student about their experience of our digital systems, and this is the response. They said it was hard during lockdown. I was using Moodle with sport, Google in history, and then science had all of a sudden moved to Teams. It's so much better that we only have one system, and I think Google is the best choice. It's really simple and easy to use. So for us, that really cemented that we'd made the right decisions, because it can be easy to allow departments to use what works for them. But in order to make things better for our quality processes, so our EdTech coordinator didn't get frazzled trying to do too many things, it was the right decision for us, and it's really going to help us when it comes to Ofsted, so we can get our hands on things quickly, share the really good practice, and keep moving forward with our process. So lessons learned. The key one was be brave and bold. Toe dipping is too safe. I really wish we'd have not taken the advice of our network services manager and moved quicker with it, because if we had, we wouldn't have got into the sticky situation of having Moodle, Google and Teams all running during lockdown. Be clear with your expectations. So really set it out exactly what you want staff and teams to do. Plan, plan and plan. Make sure that every base is covered. Make sure you've gone down every avenue, you've asked every question, and you know all the things that might occur and might happen, and then you can close them off quickly. Train, train and train. So make sure that we're training our teams, and keep the focus on what your institute needs. Try not to go wide. Try not to get sucked into things that other people are doing, or just generic training that you find with the ETF or the AOC. They are good things, but you need to keep your focus narrow in order to not overcomplicate and lead people down the wrong avenues. Keep focused and channel that energy in one direction. Now my EdTech support, Sarah, she can channel all her energy into Google. She's not trying to keep up to date with Teams or Zoom or any of the other things. She's got a real clear focus. Stay positive and rise above the negativity. So obviously when you're going through a real period of change, there is a lot of negativeness and there's a lot of people that are unhappy. You've got to believe in your decision, stay positive, and rise above that negativity, because otherwise you'll question, you'll self-doubt, and you won't keep moving in the direction you need. And that links to this one. Question yourself, but don't let self-doubt take over, because this has happened to me quite a few times, and luckily I've had Wayne and Sarah to kind of keep me and sections on track. But you're always thinking, have we made the right decision? Is this the right thing for the students? Is this the right thing for the staff? And then make sure you create wider networks. Talk, listen, connect and help. Having Wayne at Darlington has been really helpful, because he's outside the organisation and he's able to give us impartial advice. So it's been really useful. And then finally, just remember who all this is for. We're doing this for the students. We're doing it so they get a really good experience, so that we can provide them with the best quality of education that they deserve. So thank you for listening. I'm really sorry about the video issue. So I'll just stop sharing my screen 1 second.
While Stacey's stopping sharing her screen, can I just say thank you very much, Stacey. I think people would have got a lot out of that, and I can see how open and honest you've been about your journey, and how you wish that you'd jumped in straight away, and rather than tweaking around the edges. And sometimes it is best just to really throw yourself in there and then see what mistakes you come across, and see which ones work well, and then you can reflect on all of that. But has anybody got any questions for Stacey? Feel free to unmute your mic now if you have any questions.
I just want to say thank you. I thought that was really informative. My college is going through a similar process where we're looking to streamline everything and have some structure in what we're doing. And you've just really, you've just clarified many of the things that I was planning, but also that was very insightful. Thank you very much for sharing, Stacey.
No, thank you for listening. I'm sorry about the technical issues as well.
It just comes with the part of the course, doesn't it? Really.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
You're right. Often it is very much part of the course. We've had one of the speakers this morning who couldn't actually get on, so that we've had to cancel that presentation. So it is one of those issues, and you've just got to work through them and carry on the best you can. Stacy, what's been your one big takeaway from this journey that you've been on?
It is about keeping it simple, keeping it streamlined, because otherwise the people that are there to support and help you will just end up frazzled. Sarah's absolutely amazing, and I couldn't be without her and what she does. And at times when we was going through the real change, I was really worried about her, because she was trying to do Teams, Zoom, Google, and it's just not possible. So even in big colleges where you've got more support, you really need a clear vision about where you want to go and what you want to be, and we want to be a Google college, and that's the decision that we've made. Good, thank you very much. Anybody else before we wrap this session up? If you are if you are starting your journey, or you're midway through your journey and you're not already involved with the EdTech demonstrators in your area, then please do reach out to them. And if you listen to Ty Goddard's presentation this morning, you'll have seen just how passionate Ty is, and that passion does flow through all of us. We wouldn't be doing this if we weren't passionate about helping schools and colleges get the best out of the technology that's available to them. So can I just thank Stacy again, and thank you all for turning up for this session. And somebody's asking there, did you use any Google add-ons for students with additional needs? We're just really looking into this now, and we've been looking, because synchronously we can use the captions. They also is the read aloud feature, and we've been looking at changing the background colours in Google Docs, but we still have some way to go on that, and that's something that we've just started looking into. But because Google's such a well-used system across education at all levels, we just need to find the things that have been useful for those. But as it stands, we've got the captions, we've got the read aloud, and we're changing the background colours on the documents that are used.
Good, thank you very much. And we've also got somebody from Text Help this afternoon, I think it's this afternoon, talking about the add-ons and the plugins that they can deliver as well. Did somebody else have a question there? I think I might have spoke over somebody.
I'm just going to say, Wayne, I'm just going to post the link to the video, because I know it didn't play particularly well. So the YouTube link's there if people want to watch the video, but it's basically just an infographic and a speak over of what we did in terms of selling it to the staff. But I've popped the link in the chat for people, because I couldn't see the chat when I was presenting. So
no, it is off. Okay, lovely. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We've got 12 minutes before the next session starts, so time to pop to the loo, make a cup of tea, have a little walk out, and we'll see you all at the next session. Thank you very much. Cheerio. Stacey, do you want to stay on the line for a second?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. How did you find that, Stacey?
I was really nervous.
Oh, yeah, I'll stop recording.
Okay.